What's up, guys? Drew here, bringing you another episode in the Let's Talk series on King Talk Live. I'm here with my man.
Hey, Fritz in the building. Get at it.
Usually, we talk about personal development, spiritual growth, current events. So, without further ado, let's get the show on the road. All right, so today we're going to be talking about we're going to touch up a little bit on the elections. We previously talked a little bit about who we think is going to win. And if you go back and watch episode 9, you could see our input on in terms of who's going to win. So now that we're further along into the election process and the results are out, I just got to say that I don't really necessarily know that the results that they're saying on the news is that really true, because Trump saying he don't want to get out, Biden saying that this is embarrassing and all of this. So it's like, then the day, how do we truly know that it's going to be Biden going in there? And you get your hopes up, so you're like, yay, it's Biden, and then next thing they know, it's like, well, it's going to be Trump now. So you don't really know. So for all those people that are posting online, they posting all this other stuff. That's why I haven't been on social media in like the last 2 days, bro. So I try to stay away from it because people are excited, they're happy. But again, you could have pretty much dug your own grave. Don't really know, because, based on their history, do your research, go search it up, do your research in terms of these people that, you guys elected. I didn't vote. You guys elected these people. So, I don't know if I first want to touch in on it. I'll give you some time, and then I'll rebuttal off of what you say.
Yeah. I mean, same as you. In terms of being engaged with social media, I've been checked out of social media for quite some time now. So pretty much based upon the election, the results, it's just been bits and pieces of stuff that I come across with interacting with people, or just hearing stuff here and there. Now, you know, right? Personally, I expected this to happen, right? Because ultimately, while this charade is going on, right? Who knows what's really going on, right? I'm gonna leave it as that, right? Right. It's entertaining, right? I mean, there's nothing else on TV to watch, right? So, it keeps the ratings up. But it's just the content, right? It is based upon when you even think about, right? So, okay, they called the election, right? So even if the stuff that what they're saying in terms of Biden being the declared winner, right? If they even announced it prematurely or however they did it, right? Even when we just think of it, they did it. So they did it for a reason. And then whatever that reason was, it could be exactly what's happening right now to keep everyone kind of fixated, like, oh, look at what Trump's saying and look at what Biden and so forth, etc. But and then these, the report, it's just, again, when you just think about the imagery of that, right? It's like, all right, cool. But now what are you saying? But while all of this is happening, you got people that's out here, right, who's on one hand, like you said, is celebrating the fact that, there's change. Obviously we know how things were with Trump, right? A lot of people is hopeful that with having, Biden and Kamala, being in office, that will be the transformative change that we need as a nation to definitely get us going back to a direction that we need to go towards, right? So in terms of that of course, who wouldn't want that to be the reality, right? Like, who wouldn't want that, right? But the reality is that, again, you can see what's happening right now, right? So where you have individuals who generally feel that way, you could kind of see what's going on. Now, on the flip side of the coin, we also have to think about it from this perspective. Let's just say if they did prematurely call the election just to create this attention, right? And now you have the the individuals who are saying, well, no, like we believe based upon the results I'm sorry, based upon the information that's out there in regards to how things might have been tampered with, we believe that it warrants this particular process, and if this is not being handled, then then they feel like that Trump is being cheated in terms of being removed from office, right? So so then you got to then say to yourself, right? So well, who's to say that isn't really happening, right? So that's what I'm saying, right? So when you just think about the fact that they even did this, again, here we go again, right? Another thing that they put out there to keep us what? Divided, to
Yep.
make you ultimately always have to be on odds with one another, when who's doing it? The government, right? They're creating these type of issues then to have us, right? No, and right, like, but at the end of the day, right, while these individuals is living la vida loca, right? They're living the American dream, while we're busting and slaving and just to take a couple of vacations a year, in that regards.
Let me just say something then.
Mm,
So problem,
mm,
problem, right?
right,
Reaction, solution.
mm,
So right now the problem may seem is the conflict between the results, So people are like they're on edge, like who's going to win? We don't really know. Did he really win? The people that thought he won already, they already posted their posts. Basically, you posting your posts is you putting your stance on where you stand in terms of it. And that right there, too, in terms of social media, one may not necessarily say where they stand, but they don't necessarily realize that when they post those type of things, it's actually you're actually putting out your stance, but they don't really notice that. But in terms of if it comes down to hey, they are treating Trump right now, that's gonna also create another rift where it's like, oh well, how did y'all come up with that conclusion? Where did that answer come from? So you see, and then it goes back to it's just this back and forth, and now you have the people that was so happy about that they were posting all this other stuff. Now their emotion is gonna go down because it's like, no, my gosh, he's actually gonna be back. So instead of removing your emotion from the situation, right, and say, hey, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in there. We still have our problems that need to be addressed.
facts,
Not even I didn't even notice I didn't say fixed, addressed.
facts,
Because we haven't even got to the point where we know what our problems are in terms of our community, but they themselves haven't even addressed those problems. Maybe they don't. I don't know if they see it as problems or whatever the case may be. I don't really know. But in terms of that, it's like they need to address the problems because you can't fix something that you're not aware of. It goes back to your awareness. How can you fix something you're not aware of? If you know if you have an habit that somebody else can see that it's a bad habit, but you yourself don't know it's a bad habit, you can't fix it until somebody's like, "Hey, you notice that you do that, right?" And you're like, "Oh, I actually do. I never really noticed that." So, in terms of them, the people that voted in Biden and is excited that they got the announcement, this, that, and the third, and the fact that it even took a whole week for it to go to this point. For me, I said this is what I said. Election day should be the results. Election day should be the results.
right,
Point blank period. There's no counting on election day.
right,
Election day, it comes up 8 o'clock or whatever time y'all want to do it, because I know y'all like entertainment. So 8 o'clock, boom, comes on 8 o'clock. This is
right.
who the president is. Before all of that, you can do all that counting prior up to election day. I
Right.
don't understand how you're counting on election day. That didn't make any sense to me.
To the election, right?
Mhm.
So so what do you think in regard? So considering, right? So I know you were building pretty much saying, um, ultimately, if it were to come into fruition, like let's say Trump did indeed go back into office, right? So let's kind of build off of that for a little bit to wrap it
Yeah.
up and close out the
Yeah.
show, right?
Okay.
So Yeah, so ultimately, right. So let's say Trump did ultimately came to happen. Trump is staying in office. So
Mhm.
what do you think is going to be then the reality, right? And if you could, if we played the what if, right? We
Mhm.
don't have fun to close it out. We do a
Yeah.
little 5 minutes of this wrap, you know what I mean?
Okay. People good. The people that were excited gonna be upset. They're gonna be upset. And even hear me out here, even if they hear that, oh, what they said about the results, it happened to be something different. Now it's gonna cause a different type of conflict where it's like it's gonna get down to the point where it's like, yo, something's weird, but it'll also trigger something else where it's like, wait, this don't make no sense. So while we are all now the questions will start to trigger, right? Questions will start triggering. People are gonna start waking up and seeing like, yo, this doesn't make any sense. Because if y'all didn't have a definitive answer, why would you come out and say that? Right? So for us, clearly we're on a higher level of awareness, so we can see that even regardless of the result that they put out, I feel like it's more connected to an agenda to get people riled up. Because once you get emotional, you're like, no, what? I already started celebrating and all this other stuff. Now you're telling me no, it's not real. What was that? You know what I mean? So at some point, it's gonna end up, obviously they want you to be emotional, overreacting, and those type of things. But I feel like it's gonna backfire in terms of people are gonna start questioning the government. Like the government don't make no sense. What is all of this? You know what I mean? Why would the news say this? Not like anything that the news say is true, anyways, but why would the news come out with that response? And the more interesting thing is, right, in terms of those numbers, right? Let's just go back on. I know I'm kind of going off track a little bit, but I want to go back to those numbers. In terms of Nevada, Nevada was pretty much they stopped counting randomly for like 2 days. I don't know what that was all about. It was the same number. Like I looked at it in the morning, I came back, it was the same number. And even though it said that he won certain states, they never added those numbers. Obviously, it doesn't really matter, but at the same time, it's like you never really truly added those numbers. So we don't really necessarily know what is going to happen. And I'm hearing all kind of talk about, because I had heard somebody mention that he was going to resign, Mike Pence was going to become president, something along the lines like that. Then come to find out that wasn't true in terms of that. But in terms of all of this, if Trump do actually ended up winning, it's going to cause a lot of conflict between those people that are so excited. They went out and vote, and got our votes in there, voted. And at the end of the day, like I said, I don't know who these electoral college people are. I ain't never seen no pictures of these people. You just say that these people decide who are they and why can't we go to a meeting to choose these people?
Right, right,
When
right,
do
right.
we get to choose
Right.
them? I want to choose them towards them and
It's
figuring out who these people are. Can we
facts.
start vetting these people?
Yep.
Like, can we start vetting these people? Like, who are they?
Right. Right.
Maybe hey, and if you know in the comments, please write it down there. Tell me who they are. They try to make this connection where it's like, oh, it's based on how much you vote in a certain section. Then that doesn't, bro. That don't make no sense. What are you talking about? Like what?
They create all of these safety nets, bro, and that's just the thing, right? So even even when you just interject yourself, right? Even to start to even thinking about the understanding of why would someone create such a system, right? Ultimately, to understand that clearly there will be a significant gap in between the person who will be reaping benefits versus the people who will not be reaping benefits, right? So even if when we just understand the premise of what this system is about, right? Then like you said, right, then you have that safety net, right? So when you really got people generally out here through a form of an expression through voting, right? is saying, regardless of maybe of how influenced, I'm going to use that word, right? How influenced any one particular candidate can really be through the expression of how people in terms of their condition. And think about that, right? So that's the truth, and that's a lot of times what happened, because you have these entities, right, where their number one objective is to create how our minds work, right? So they're essentially creating this manipulation that we attach ourselves emotionally through, right, in that regards, right? So now how is it now we're going to expect right? So these individuals is going to essentially tell us truthful stuff, right? That's coming out, right? But because already as it is, we don't even trust these platforms. So now they're taking our real reality, how we're living, right? And they prop that up, right, in terms of creating all of these true conversations in terms of what these, elected individuals, right? They create these real conversations, bro. Right? Even right, and then when you even think about it, and then they make a mockery of it, bro. They take situations that's really happening, and they make an absolute mockery of it. So that's why we as a people think about it, right? So already you see it, so you can already authenticate it because it exists. And then when you see the people that we then elect, bro, right, to essentially to govern, right, to take care of our affairs, right, in that capacity, right? And if you see essentially what they're doing, they're not doing any of these things, right? All they do is they have figured it out to where, right, they lobbyists through lobbying and through just how shit really is, right? They have it set to where it's like trying to move a mountain, bro, right? And that's why I believe you can't change this. There's a system you cannot. It doesn't matter if you think, oh yeah, if we made up this or we made up. No, it will never, because why? They have systems that will, as soon as you might think you're overwhelming the system, no, we got something for that. And then when you think you got something here, no, and then so forth and so on. This system is a perfect system designed for exactly what's happening right now. A certain group to be up here and a certain group to be up here. And I'm not saying that the group up here is not levels to that group. Oh yeah, even within that ranking, you see how things are in that setting, right? And you see how things are down here, and that's as clear as day, right? But again, if you're comfortable where you're at, you will never even feel the need to have to feel that you have to have this certain common expression, right? So to close it off, right, how I feel is like this, right? You know how we have the groups that's out there who feels great to the fact that Biden is essentially going into office, and then you have the group of people who are like pissed off, right, in a sense, because they're like, this bullshit, but then because ultimately they want Trump to stay in office. I'm a part of the group who essentially want to feel the way you guys are feeling, in terms of you feel like there's a person who's a representation of your needs, right? And unfortunately, I have never felt like this system has ever even remotely cared enough even to illustrate that from a city mayor, Senate, governor, and then so forth, etc. Right? I mean, how is the president supposed to be a representation of all of these things that's happening when you have illustration of all these groups of people who is like, nah, we don't care about that, right? They can fix it. They're the ones who's creating the laws, right? But then we look at the president thinking like, oh yeah, he's going to be the person to, no, and that's what I'm saying. You got to educate yourself. We got to stuff. Even people who participate in this, in that system, don't even understand that. They think it is the president who has all the power. No, it's not the president, right? How could you even remotely say change is going to happen? That's why change hasn't happened, because while we're over here looking at the president, we got these people who just like these idiots, and they create that rift, right? It's right. They build that feud into the presidency to keep the attention on them. And these individuals, they paid actors. That's all it is. They're like, okay, so all right, who am I debating, right? They just paid actors, bro. That's the way I see it, right?
Yeah.
So with that, you know what I mean? I appreciate you guys again. Thank you very much, just coming, kicking it with us for yet another video, right? We appreciate you guys. Again, this is Life First, signing out. Till the next one.